31%. Chancellor Mireya of the Solvari Federation stared at the number until it burned into her retinas. 31% approval. The lowest rating any chancellor had received since the founding of the Federation 2 centuries ago. Her predecessor had been assassinated at 47%. The trade deficit with the outer systems is the primary driver, her chief advisor droned, pointing at holographic charts that meant nothing to her anymore. Additionally, the agricultural subsidies have alienated the industrial blocks, and your handling of the Karathos situation has made me appear weak. Yes, I know. Mireya waved the charts away. Is there anything in those numbers that suggests I am not, in fact, doomed? The silence was answer enough. She dismissed her advisors with a gesture and stood at the window of her office, looking out over the capital city. Spires of living crystal reached toward the violet sky. Millions of her people moved through the streets below, living their lives, forming opinions, deciding that their chancellor was failing them. 31%. You look like you need a drink. Mireya spun. A human stood in the doorway of her private office, a door that should have been sealed, guarded, impossible to breach without triggering 17 separate alarms. He was unremarkable by human standards. Average height. Brown hair with threads of gray. Eyes that looked like they had seen too much, and decided to find it amusing anyway. How did you get in here? Your security chief owed me a favor. He walked in without invitation, dropping into one of her advisory chairs with casual irreverence. I'm Jack Reeves, cultural attaché to the Human Embassy officially. Unofficially, I solve problems. I did not request a human problem solver. No, but you need one. He produced a data chip from his pocket and tossed it onto her desk. That contains evidence that Lord Kesov has been manipulating the economic reports your council receives. The trade deficit is real, but it's not your fault. It's his embezzlement on a scale that would make your great-grandmother weep. Mireya stared at the chip. Why would you give this to me? Because you're the first chancellor in 6 administrations who actually tried to help the humans in your territory. The integration programs. The education initiatives. The medical access reforms. Jack shrugged. My people noticed. We pay attention when someone treats us like people instead of vermin. Your people's gratitude is noted, but this information will destroy Kesov when you release it, yes. It will also raise uncomfortable questions about how you obtained it and why your own intelligence services didn't catch it first. Jack leaned forward. Which is why you need me to be the one who discovers it. Human troublemaker uncovers corruption. Chancellor heroically acts on the information. Your ratings go up. Kesov goes down. Everyone wins. Except Kesov. Kesov is stealing from orphanages. He can rot. Mireya found herself fighting an inappropriate smile. You are remarkably direct for a diplomat. I'm remarkably direct for anyone. It's a character flaw. He stood. I'll start the process tonight. The evidence will surface through appropriate channels within the week. All you have to do is act surprised and outraged when it becomes public. Wait, The word escaped before she could stop it. Why are you really doing this? Jack paused at the door. I told you. Your integration programs help several thousand humans. This level of involvement risks your career, your freedom, possibly your life. The math doesn't balance. He was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice had lost some of its casual irreverence. Because I watched the address you gave after the Karathos crisis. The one where you talked about the cost of leadership, and how sometimes the right choice is the one that costs you everything. He met her eyes. You meant it. Every word. I could tell. Most politicians mean what they say in the moment. Most politicians wouldn't have said it at all. They would have spun the crisis, blamed subordinates, positioned themselves for the next election. Jack's expression softened. You told the truth. You took responsibility. You treated your people like adults who deserved honesty. And my ratings dropped 15 points as a result. Proving that honesty is expensive. But also proving that you're worth saving. He smiled. A real smile. Warm and unexpected. Get some sleep, Chancellor. You're going to have a busy week. He left before she could respond. Mireya stood in the silence of her office, holding a data chip that could save her career, given to her by a human who had no reason to help, and every reason to stay uninvolved. For the first time in months, she felt something that wasn't exhaustion or despair. She felt curious. The scandal broke exactly as Jack had predicted. Lord Kesov was arrested. The evidence was irrefutable. Public outrage shifted from the Chancellor to the corrupt official who had been bleeding the Federation for years. Mireya's approval ratings climbed 12 points in a week. And Jack Reeves became a fixture in her life. It started professionally. He provided additional intelligence about other problematic elements in her administration. He offered insights into human perspectives, that her Solvari advisors couldn't provide. He was useful, too useful to dismiss, despite the raised eyebrows from her counsel. Then it became personal. She found herself inviting him to private meetings that had nothing to do with politics. Late dinners where they discussed philosophy, history, the nature of leadership. Walks through the palace gardens where he made her laugh. Actually laugh, for the first time in years. "You're different when there are no cameras," he observed one evening, as they sat on a bench overlooking the city lights. "Different how? Lighter, younger." He glanced at her. "You carry the weight of the world in public. Here, you let yourself set it down. The world does not stop needing to be carried simply because I am tired. No. But you're no good to the world if you collapse under the weight." He leaned back, looking at the stars. "Humans learned that lesson the hard way. We used to work our leaders to death, literally. Burnout, heart attacks, mental breakdowns. Took us centuries to realize that sustainable leadership requires actual sustainability. And how do your leaders sustain themselves? The good ones. They find someone to share the burden. Someone who sees them as a person, not just a position." His eyes met hers. Someone who reminds them why they do the job in the first place. Mireya felt the air between them grow heavy. "Check, I know. Chancellor and human cultural attaché. The scandal writes itself." He didn't look away. "But I've been watching you carry this alone for months, and I'm tired of pretending I don't want to help carry it. You already help. The intelligence, the insights, that's not what I mean, and you know it." She did know. She had known since the night he first walked into her office, uninvited and irreverent, and utterly unlike anyone else in her carefully controlled world. "My approval rating just recovered," she said quietly. "If this becomes public, loving a human was the real scandal." Jack spoke the words with bitter precision. "That's what they would say, isn't it? That's what your enemies would use. Not the policy failures or the trade deficit, but the fact that the Chancellor let a human touch her heart. It would destroy everything we just rebuilt. Probably." He stood, putting distance between them. "Which is why I should go. Before this becomes something we can't walk back from." "Wait." He stopped. Mireya rose and crossed the space between them. Her hand found his, Solvari skin against human, cool meeting warm. "I have spent my entire career being careful," she said. "Calculating every action, measuring every word, ensuring that nothing I did could be used against me. And it brought me to 31% approval, and a council full of people who hate me." "Mireya, you called me by my name." Her voice caught. "No one calls me by my name anymore. Not even my family. I am Chancellor to everyone. A title. A position. A tool. You are not a tool." "Then, what am I?" Jack lifted her hand to his lips, a human gesture that she had seen him perform once before, in a report about Earth customs. "You are a woman who got into politics because she wanted to help people, who lost herself somewhere along the way, who is just now realizing that she can find herself again." His eyes held hers. "And I am a man who has no business falling for someone so far out of his reach, but who can't seem to stop. This is impossible. Most important things are." She kissed him. It was reckless and foolish and the exact opposite of everything a chancellor should do. She didn't care. For one moment, she was just Mireya, a woman who wanted to be seen, to be held, to be something more than a symbol. When they separated, Jack's forehead rested against hers. "We should stop," he murmured. "Probably. This is going to explode spectacularly, almost certainly. And you're going to kiss me again anyway?" "Definitely." She did. They were careful. Impossibly careful. Private meetings became private dinners. Private dinners became stolen nights. Every moment was a risk. Every touch a potential scandal. Every word a secret that could destroy them both. For 3 months, they lived in shadows. And for 3 months, Mireya found herself becoming someone she had forgotten she could be. She laughed. She took risks. She pushed back against her counsel with a confidence that surprised everyone, herself included. Her approval ratings continued to climb, 53%, then 59, then 64. The highest numbers of her administration. And every night, when the world stopped watching, Jack was there to remind her that she was more than a number on a chart. "They're starting to notice," he warned one evening, lying beside her in her private quarters. "Your chief of staff keeps looking at me like she's solving a puzzle. Irina looks at everyone like that. She looks at me like she's 2 moves from checkmate." Mireya traced patterns on his chest, human skin so different from her own. Warm where she was cool, soft where she was scaled. "Would it be so terrible?" she asked quietly. "If they found out? You know the answer to that." She did. Her approval rating was built on perceived strength, perceived independence, the image of a chancellor who needed no one. A relationship with a human would shatter that image. It would confirm every whisper about her being soft on aliens. It would give her enemies exactly the weapon they needed. "I'm tired of hiding," she admitted. "I know. I'm tired of pretending that the most important person in my life doesn't exist when the cameras are on. I know that too. Is this how humans live, in secrets and shadows?" Jack sat up, his expression serious. "Some humans do. The ones who are afraid of what the world would say. The ones who prioritize safety over truth." He touched her face. "But the ones I admire most, they live out loud. They take the risk. They say this is who I am and who I love. And if you don't like it, that's your problem. Your species is very brave. Our species is very stubborn. There's a difference." He smiled, but it faded quickly. "Mireya, I can't tell you what to do. I can't promise that going public won't destroy everything you've built, but I can promise that hiding forever will destroy something just as important." "What?" "You. The real you. The one who laughs when no one's watching and takes risks when no one's counting and loves without calculating the political cost." His hand covered hers. "That woman is worth more than any approval rating." Mireya closed her eyes. She thought about 31%. She thought about the endless calculation, the constant performance, the slow erosion of everything that had once made her believe she could make a difference. She thought about how she felt when Jack looked at her, seen, valued, real. "There's a press conference tomorrow," she said. "Annual State of the Federation address. Every major outlet in known space will be watching. I know. I read your schedule. I want you there. On the stage. Beside me." Jack went very still. "Mireya, I know what it is. I know what it will cost." She opened her eyes. "I also know that I can't keep living two lives. I can't keep pretending that my heart belongs to the Federation when it actually belongs to you. Your approval rating will crash. Probably. Or maybe," she sat up, something fierce kindling in her chest. "Maybe my people are tired of perfect leaders who never show weakness. Maybe they want someone who is willing to risk everything for something real. Maybe loving a human isn't a scandal. Maybe it's proof that I'm still capable of love at all." Jack stared at her for a long moment. Then he pulled her close and kissed her with a desperation that spoke louder than words. "You're going to change everything," he breathed. "That's rather the point of being Chancellor." The press conference began like every other state address Mireya had given. Statistics about economic growth. Updates on diplomatic relations. Promises about infrastructure and education, and all the things that made approval ratings rise and fall. The audience listened politely. The cameras rolled. Everything was proceeding according to script. Then Mireya set aside her prepared remarks. "Before I conclude," she said, "there's a matter of personal significance that I wish to address." The chamber went quiet. Behind her she felt Jack shift. They had agreed he would wait in the wings until she called for him. "For the past 3 months, I have been in a relationship." She let the words land. "A relationship that I have kept hidden from you, from my council, from the Federation itself. I did this because I was afraid. Afraid of how you would react. Afraid of what my enemies would say. Afraid of the scandal that would inevitably follow." Murmurs rippled through the audience. Camera drones zoomed closer. "The person I love is not Sylvari." Mireya's voice was steady, though her hearts were racing. "He is human. His name is Jack Reeves, and he has reminded me what it means to be more than a title." The murmurs became gasps. Someone shouted a question. The carefully controlled atmosphere of the press conference dissolved into chaos. Mireya raised her hand for silence. "I know what many of you are thinking. Her approval ratings were falling, and now loving a human is the real scandal. Another failure. Another weakness. Proof that your Chancellor is not fit to lead." She stepped away from the podium and walked to the edge of the stage, close enough to see individual faces in the crowd. "But I ask you to consider what it means that I am telling you this. I could have kept hiding. I could have ended the relationship to protect my position. I could have calculated the political cost and decided that my career was worth more than my heart." She paused. "I chose not to." Jack emerged from the wings, walking to stand beside her. The cameras captured everything. His human features. His hand reaching for hers. The way she took it without hesitation. "I chose love," Mireya said. "I chose to be a person instead of just a chancellor. I chose to trust you. My people, with the truth about who I am." She turned to face Jack, then back to the cameras. "Jack Reeves has shown me that strength is not the absence of vulnerability. It is having the courage to be vulnerable anyway. He has shown me that leadership is not about being perfect." She squeezed his hand. "And he has shown me that the distance between species is nothing compared to the distance we create when we are too afraid to reach across it." The chamber was silent now. No one seemed to know how to respond to a chancellor who had just committed political suicide on live broadcast. Then, from somewhere in the back, someone began to applaud. A single person. Slow, deliberate clapping that echoed through the silence. Another joined. Then another. Then a wave that swept through the chamber. Not unanimous, not overwhelming, but present. Real. Real. Growing. Mireya felt tears prick her eyes. I don't know what my approval rating will be tomorrow, she admitted. I don't know if this will end my career or save it. But I know that for the first time in years, I am standing in front of you as myself. Not a carefully constructed image, but a woman who has found something worth more than power. She looked at Jack. He was smiling, his eyes bright with something that looked like pride. I am Chancellor Mireya of the Sci-Fİ Federation, she said, turning back to the cameras. And I am in love with a human. If that is a scandal, then let it be the scandal that changes everything. She kissed him. On stage. In front of every major news outlet, in known space. The applause grew louder. Not everyone approved. Her enemies would certainly use this against her. The political consequences would unfold for months, perhaps years. But when Mireya pulled back and looked at Jack, she saw something that made it all worthwhile. The reflection of a woman who had finally stopped being afraid. That was terrifying, he murmured. That was necessary. Your approval rating is going to be all over the place. Probably. She smiled. But for the first time in my career, I don't actually care about the numbers. What do you care about? You. She kissed him again. Just you. The Federation would adapt. Her enemies would rage. History would debate whether this moment was the beginning of her downfall or the start of something unprecedented. But for Mireya and Jack, standing hand in hand while the galaxy watched, none of that mattered. They had chosen each other. They had chosen truth. And in the end, that was the only approval rating that counted.